Good day. This is the fourth video tutorial on Designer. The video shows an example of running strategy testing. User selects the desired instrument. Run strategy. In this case, the program displays an error message. To find and eliminate such errors and test the strategy as a whole, the program provides a strategy debugging process, which helps to identify and eliminate possible errors when the strategy works at the testing stage. There are several methods for debugging, such as manual, when the user manually checks all program stages. It is quite difficult and time-consuming, and also dynamic, consisting of strategy testing. Search for errors using the built-in program tools. The debugger is such a built-in program tool. Debugger, a set of testing tools. Consider how it works in the program. It's in the emulation menu. Consider its main elements. Let's start with the Add Breakpoint button on the selected item. Delete Breakpoint button. The next one is Delete All Breakpoints, since you can assign multiple. Go to Next Element of Schema button. Enter the composite element to the first cube receiving data. Exit a composite element to a higher level. Composite elements will be discussed in the next lessons. Breakpoint Settings button, which allows you to add additional value. We will consider it later. Let's consider how the breakpoint works and what its meaning is. Select cubes, variable, candles, and chart panel. We connect them with each other. The breakpoint is implemented in the program in order to stop the program on the required cube, to adjust and test the strategy process, that is, to debug it. Set a breakpoint on the input socket of the chart panel. As you can see, the socket is highlighted in red. If you hover over a socket, you can see the value it receives. You can also see the value during testing in the cube settings. Let's start the strategy. Note that the cube on which the breakpoint is set is highlighted in pink. And on the input socket of cube, the value it received is displayed. In this way, multiple breakpoints can be set for more convenient strategy debugging. And view the correctness of the strategy. Manual verification method in this case. Least practical and comfortable. Working with the breakpoint tool saves time and effort in strategy debugging. For an example of working with the debugger, we will use the strategy from the previous lesson. Let's set some breakpoints on the input and output socket of the cube, the previous value. Let's start the first iteration. We see that the cube with breakpoint is highlighted in pink. The value of closing price of current candle is 203.55 on the cube entry socket. Push the button to the next item. We see the price value of the current candle on the variable cube. Press the Start button, starting the next iteration. The value of the input socket of the previous value cube has changed to 204.01. This is the value of the closing price of the second candle. Push the button to the next item, and we see that the value of the previous closing price is received on the output socket of the previous value cube. Push the button to the next item, and we see the received values on the input sockets of the comparison cube. Press twice the button to the next item, and we look at the value received by the input socket of cube that stores the closing price of the current candle. The value is 204.01. Click on the button to the next item. You can see the value of the trigger signal. Press again the button to the next item. We see the value on the output socket of variable cube. Click on the button to the next item. Now, on the comparison cube, you can see the values received for comparison and see the correct operation of this cube. Thus, tracking of changes in values on cube sockets is implemented. Remove all breakpoints. Click on Stop. Click on Refresh. Consider the correctness of trades. To do this, set breakpoints on the sell trigger of the position opening block. Select the trigger socket and click Add Breakpoint. Open the Trade panel, by which we will track the execution of trades. Let's start the strategy. We see that there are 2 buy trades. We are interested in sale trades. We will check the correctness of the sale trade. We look at the trigger. The value is true. The trigger with the value true is highlighted in pink. Let's see the output value of the comparison cube. It is true. Check the correctness of comparison by looking at the values on the input sockets. We see that the closing price of the previous candle is higher than the closing price of the current one. Therefore, the trigger value is correct. Click on Start, and we see a sell trade is displayed in the trade table. Compare with the candle chart, on which our trades are marked. And compare the price at which the trade executed. We see their coincidence, and therefore, the strategy works correctly. Let's look at how you can set additional conditions on the breakpoint. Consider the case when we need the breakpoint to be triggered only when a false signal is received. Select a socket and set a breakpoint so that when a false signal is sent on the socket of the comparison cube, the strategy stops. To do this, press the breakpoint button and select our breakpoint in the settings. In the right corner, there is an item for selecting a trigger condition. When checked, the breakpoint is triggered when the signal is true. When unchecked, false. Click Close and start the strategy. Now, as soon as a false signal is generated on the comparison cube socket, the breakpoint is triggered. Thus, it allows you to debug the strategy, specific signal values, which reduces the debugging time. Delete set breakpoints. Click on Refresh and consider another case. Suppose we know that the error occurs when the closing price is in a certain range. Set a breakpoint on a converter socket. It passes the closing price value. Click on the Breakpoint button. In the menu that appears, select our breakpoint, and in the left window, set the extreme values of the range. Now, when the closing price falls within the specified range, breakpoint triggered. Thus, we will reduce the time for a step-by-step strategy check, eliminating knowingly correct iterations. Click on Start, and the breakpoint is triggered since the price value fell into the range. Stop the strategy and change the range value. Let's start the strategy. As you can see, the breakpoint is triggered when the price value falls into the range. The conditions set on breakpoints depend on the data type. Either Boolean values, false or true, or numeric. That's all. Thanks, and goodbye.